संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्म स्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaय te namaha. So we are meeting after a long time, and we will be discussing, or we intend to discuss, a very important topic, the importance of sadhana, or there's another word for it, upasana, in spiritual life. Now, what does sadhana or upasana mean? That's the first question. And what is spiritual life in general? So these are the two things we shall discuss first, to know what is spiritual life and what is the importance of sadhana to lead a spiritual life. So there are two beautiful words in Kathopanishad. It is explained philosophically, but if I use a very common term which we use in Sanskrit, the whole world is known as bhava. Bhava means that which has been created. So everything that has been created, the whole of creation, nature, prakriti, is called as a bhava. So that's why we call bhava sagara. Bhava sagara means the ocean of the worldly existence. And spiritual life is supposed to help you to cross this river of this ocean of worldly, the ocean of the world, which is known as Bhava Sagara. These are all technical terms, but very important terms. So a normal life, as opposed to spiritual life, a normal life in the world which we live in, and a majority of us are leading, you can say, a normal worldly life. Nothing wrong in that, because according to Kathopanishad, according to Yama, in answer to a question to Nachiketa, he's saying, don't worry, it is God who himself has created this world so that you are bhavamukhi. You are always facing the world. Your senses are facing the world. Your eyes are seeing the world. Your ears are hearing things from outside. So there is nothing new. You are bound or forced. He uses a very harsh word. Yama is using a very harsh word and is telling Nachiketa, God has literally, I was shocked when I first read that, God has cheated you. Cheated in the sense, Vyatrunat, means literally killed you by making you bhavamukhi. So Nachiketa would have been surprised, a 14-year-old boy, when he hears for the first time that the Lord himself, Swayambhu, the word is which is used is Swayambhu, the Lord who is seated within, has, as it were, cheated every being and made him look outside, so that you can enjoy the play that he has created outside. So now we'll come to the point, then what is the, if God has cheated, then is there no solution if we are cheated by being bhavamukhi? So there are these two words. Let us not go into the Upanishadic philosophy. He explains why it is God has created majority of the human beings bhavamukhi, facing the world and enjoying and forgetting the antaratman, that is the divine that is within. And he says, Kaschid dhira, some brave people, some wise people, some people of steady wisdom, who have discovered the way to peace, or who believe in people who have discovered the secret, they alone turn inwards and they become Chaitanya Mukhi or Cheto Mukhi. That is another word which is used, not in this Upanishad, but I am summarizing what this Upanishad says. So on one hand, Yama, the Lord of Death, he says, there is a way out of this Bhavamukhi attitude. the attitude with which most of the people in the world are happy to live their life. They are happy till the problem comes. They are happy. Nobody is unhappy. They are very happy when everything goes fine. Till one day, either when they get old or when they realize that the world that they have created around themselves is suddenly going to vanish. One of the reasons is death. Death will snatch it from them, or they will fall sick, and the world that they created for their own sake, they will not be able to enjoy. So these are the two fears. Bhavamukhi people, people who have created and who believe that this world will give us happiness, will give everything that we want in life. So with that attitude, a Bhavamukhi person lives. So he is a normal person. I would not call him a worldly person. Though Sri Ramakrishna and all the Upanishadic rishis will say he is a samsari, as if it is such a bad thing. But if as God has created us so that a majority of the people are Bhavamukhi, then why should we blame people? We should blame God, isn't it? That's why he says, God has cheated you by making you Bhavamukhi. But he says, there is a but there. He says, Kaschid Dhira. But there are always a few people whom God also selects and decides who will be Chetomukhi, or who will be facing the subject. So for every being, there is a subject, a subjective existence. That is I. And there is an objective existence. According to Shankaracharya, he says, unfortunately for most of us, the subjective and objective gets mixed up. So, subjective existence means I, and objective existence means mine. There is a deeper I, and I am very fond of it. There is nothing wrong, because it is the nature of every human being to have a subject. And at the same time, there is an objective existence. And there is a clash between this subjective and objective approach to life. Bhavamukhi person will be so busy with the objects that he forgets the subject. A subjective person is so engaged with his subject that he doesn't care for the objective existence. And always, if you see in life, the minority is always subjective people. That means spiritual people will be very, very, very rare. That is why Yama is telling Nachiketa, you are really deserving. I offered you many things in the subjective world. You refused to be Bhavamukhi. I offered you the whole kingdom, whole earth as your kingdom, half of the whole earth. I offered you wealth, I offered you money, I offered you many things, and tried to cheat you to become Bhavamukhi. But you said, I want to know the nature of the self. What happens to this self? All the Bhavamukhi existence that you have created to cheat me, I have to leave it behind. I am wise. I am much wiser than my father, who is doing all these pujas and yagnas. He actually quarreled with his father, and father cursed him so that he goes to Yama. And that was a blessing in disguise, because that turned him towards spirituality. That curse of his father, who was Bhavamukhi. He was not happy with his wealth and the progress he had made in the world. He was afraid that after death I have to leave everything behind. So before I die, let me make some provision so that I go to heaven. Heaven is just an extension of our Bhavamukhi attitude. We lose all the gross things which we have gathered, and people who are a little wise, not fully wise, like Nachiketa, like the father of Nachiketa, he thought, I have made provisions, I have enough to lead a very comfortable life, but before I die, let me make some provision for my heavenly existence, because they believe in a subtle world which they will go to after death. Though his son did not agree, and son did not also agree, Nachiketa did not agree. It pointed out the fallacy in his argument. So that's why his father was angry with him, said, you don't know. That is how the Lord has cheated us, including Nachiketa's father, who thought that this extension of Bhavamukhi in the subtle world, what if my body goes away? I will still enjoy the fruits of my actions in heaven. That is the attitude of a Bhavamukhi person. Bhava doesn't mean that he is only attached to things of the world. He is also attached to the things of heaven. That is why he was doing yajna and all those things he was doing, and hoping that the Lord will reward him after he dies. He will go to heaven and spend the rest of his, the later part of his life after death, he will enjoy in heaven. Seeing the fallacy, Nachiketa stops him and tells him, you are on a wrong path and you have not understood the scriptures properly. You have to study it a little deeply. So that angers, that father naturally he is upset. He said, who are you to tell me? I taught you and now you are asking me questions and you have the temerity to question my wisdom. So out of anger, he says, I give you to Yama, and fortunately, Yama teaches him what is it to be subjective. Subjective means Chaitanya Mukhi. So every existence presupposes there is a subject which is our source, which is our original nature, the pure self. That is what all the philosophies of all the religions teach us. That is why that central teaching of the Bible which says the kingdom of God is within you. Jesus warned his disciples or his followers that don't seek that kingdom of God outside. Just as Nachiketa's father thought of a heaven which is just an extension of the Bhavamukhi attitude he had. He has seen the world, he has seen the beautiful things in the world which he hopes he will continue to enjoy after he leaves the body. So that heaven was not promised by Jesus. When he said the kingdom of God is within you, means the kingdom of heaven, if at all there is a heaven that you want to go after death, is inside. It is a subjective existence. Deep within you is the place where you should seek the presence of the Lord. So that is known as Chetomukhi. Chetomukhi means Chaitanya Mukhi, or the search after the consciousness which is making this outer world possible. So in Indian philosophy, the Brahman or the pure existence or the pure Chaitanya, which is represented by the word like Brahman or Ishvara or God or Paramatman, it is all to be searched for and attained by going within. So that is why this inward journey is spiritual life. That is the first part. Now, what are the sadhanas for the spiritual life? We discussed what spiritual life is. The fundamental difference between two attitudes, one is Bhavamukhi, going outward, which is a natural tendency for all of us. But if we are wise, if we are a bit steady, dhira, kasyit dhira, antaratmanam aikshat, avrutta chakshu, amrutatvam icchan. Avrutta chakshu means he closes his eyes. So you see, in all the traditions, if you want to see that subjective reality, that Paramatman or that divine spirit within, where you will find the kingdom of heaven, as Jesus promised, then the most natural thing you have to do is shut your eyes from the outside world. That is why he says avrutta chakshu. So it's not just the chakshu. When he says chakshu means all the senses that are taking you, making you bhavamukhi, go towards the world, which helps you to enjoy the world for some time, at least for some portion of your life. We have to convert that outward looking attitude into an inward looking attitude, or at least you should balance it. So that is what spiritual life is all about. That it's not that you deny the importance of senses. You continue to see, you continue to hear, you continue to smell, you do or use all your senses, just turn their direction, turn it inward. That is why Yama tells only a few wise people. Dhira means, in Sanskrit, the word dhira means one who is wise because he is a steady person, who is not whimsical. So, even in Gita, yesterday we were discussing the second chapter, where after describing the whole philosophy of Sankhya, Krishna tells Arjuna, because you are dear to me, I am not only giving you the theory, but I am teaching you how to realize. I will teach you the yoga of Sankhya. Sankhya is a philosophy which I explained to you, and Arjuna was convinced. He was convinced, even though he was on the battlefield, and he was restless to fight the battle before the war began, and he wanted to win. He was very extrovert because all his training was bhavamukhi. His archery, his skills, everything, whatever is needed to succeed in the world, he had. So he was bhavamukhi already, not an ordinary bhavamukhi like us, who is sometimes successful, sometimes we fail, but he was always trained to be successful in life, whatever be the opposition. So he was an extremely competent bhavamukhi. He was trained so much that he could excel in anything, including the art of warfare. So there was no training required for him. The only training he needed, which Arjuna gets from Krishna, is how to balance his external excellence with internal excellence. That is, how to become Chetomukhi in the midst of battle. Chetomukhi means Chaitanya. Don't neglect the Chaitanya in your eagerness to excel in the world outside. If you neglect the world within, if you neglect the subject which demands your attention, you see, that is what Upanishad says. The self that is within, it demands your attention as much as the world demands. So if not anything else, you should balance. Even if you want to excel in the world, okay, at least 50% that poor fellow within, the self within, says, you have been always preoccupied with the bhavamukhi attitude, and you are always trying to do something in the world, something to please this person, something to please. What about the self? He also needs attention. He has to be. So that is why they say, when you turn to spirituality, apparently you have to become a little selfish in an enlightened sense. Because of our weakness to be always occupied with external things, to please everyone, our family, our friends, how much time we spend to please them. We are bhavamukhi, not because of course, one reason, as Yama said, God has created us bhavamukhi. We are always happy. But now and then, some wise person thinks that in my effort to do things outside, to make others happy, I have somewhere down the line, I have made myself unhappy. That is why a spiritual person, though he appears to be selfish, he is doing what he is supposed to do, because he wants to know, he is one part of his existence. The objective world is one part, but 50% is the self within. The attention that he should, the heaven that is within, the divine spirit that is within, if proper attention is not given, at least 50%, even to lead a normal, balanced life. If for people who are 100% spiritual like Sri Ramakrishna, God alone is the reality. For him, it rarely mattered what happened in the world outside. That is why he could not even read the newspapers. He considered newspapers as something, a waste of time. He had nothing in his life but God. But that I am saying of 100% Chaitanya Mukhi. That is why the only blessing he could give on Kalpataru day, he said, I can't give you any other better blessing than Chaitanya Hok. What it means is, you become Chetomukhi, because that is the only thing that will give you security, that will give you stability, that will give you eternal peace, because that is the only thing that doesn't change. The subject doesn't change, but the object keeps on changing. And placing your faith or attention or wasting your time on external things, the more you waste, the more disturbed you will be. So in your own interest, if you want to be happy, if you want to discover the spirit, the happiness within, or the kingdom of God, if you want to discover, you have to go within. So this is expressed by all the scriptures of all religions. Nobody says God is there outside. Though some ignorantly may say there is heaven, there are gods who are outside. But most of the highest teachings of every religion says that kingdom of heaven, the real heaven or the real bliss, the source of bliss is subjective. And from the subject has come this object. Now this is what is the first idea or the fundamental principle of sadhana. So sadhana actually or upasana means changing the objective approach and gradually following the subjective approach. The approach that you need to change your attitude and from being bhavamukhi, which will lead to restlessness, which will lead to trouble and which will ultimately destroy you. Paranchi Khani, Vyatrunat means the God has almost destroyed you. He has not destroyed you fully. He has made you bhavamukhi. That's why you are slowly going out, but the more you go, the more you are, the Swayambhu, the one who is within, has practically destroyed the Jiva, the Jivatma. So when the Jivatma says enough is enough, now let me go and explore the other side. One side I've explored, I've seen what is there, like Nachiketa, the 14-year-old boy, he tells Yama that I have seen all the things that you are tempting me with, money, wealth, women and all those things which you are telling me. I know its value, it is temporary, but I know there is something permanent, the permanent source of bliss is within me, but I don't know how to reach it. So that's why I come to you. If I had wanted that, I would not have come to you. Like my father, I would have done the rituals which he was doing. I came here just because I want to know the truth. So this is the first, once we get convinced of this, that this is what spiritual life entails, this is what spiritual life means, then we come to the means. Just as Arjuna, in the first 40 verses of second chapter, he explains what is the knowledge of the self. Most of us will be happy. That's why we are very happy when we listen to the knowledge, the Jnana portion, because in Jnana, once your intellect is satisfied, you are happy with that. Oh, that is the beautiful explanation of the Atman or the Brahman that is within. Oh yes, it is such a nice thing. But how to reach it? That there comes the problem. Jnana or the uncovering or the analysis of truth, no matter how poetic it is. So Krishna is telling Arjuna in verse number 42, if you see yesterday's Gita class, I have discussed everything. He says, God has even in Vedas tried to misguide people by flowery words and they get stuck somewhere thinking that Bhavamukhi worship is the only worship. Worship to the God who is outside, the God whom we consider as God, but who's an expression of that same inside, the subject expresses as the object. For example, they say when the first expression is Om, the word Om is known as Shabda Brahman. The first time that the self, the pure consciousness expresses itself as creation. Before creation, the first name comes and from the name form comes. So the world of name and form, the whole world according to Vedanta is made of name and form. Everything that I see this table has a name and it has a form associated with that. Whichever language you use, if you say table in English, it means this table. So these philosophers, the Sankhya philosophers said the whole world, or Vedanta philosophers, they said the whole world is made of name and form. That's a great truth and people are very happy, and when we listen to these wonderful explanations, we even get convinced. But the problem is, according to Yama, that this world of name and form doesn't seem to leave us. It is still attracting our attention. In fact, it is not only attracting our attention, but it is also making us run after more and more forms, more and more names. We want so much, we are carried away by the variety that is available that we forget the subject. So spirituality is reversing the direction, reversing our attention, reversing our attitude from bhavamukhi to chetomukhi. That's the first principle. And how to do it is sadhana. So now coming to sadhana or upasana, if you see all our traditions, the traditions of bhakti, which the question was asked whether we have to follow the path of bhakti, jnana, karma and Raj Yoga, or the path of meditation, which is the fourth faculty of our mind, because everywhere the mind is involved. The mind has four faculties. So to understand sadhana, you have to understand the nature of the mind. Because who does sadhana? It's not the body that does sadhana. It is our mind that does sadhana. Who changes the attitude? It is our mental attitude, our mental priorities, our choices in life. That determines what kind of sadhana we do. So behind every sadhana, there is a method which deals with this karma yoga, our actions, the willpower, which deals with our thinking processes, it deals with our emotions. So we can't neglect any one of these three. No human being can progress even in the bhavamukhi attitude. If he wants to, say, excel in a particular field, he has to first have bhakti for that field. He has to be emotionally attached to what he wants to do. He wants to be a sportsman. For example, I'm just giving an example how all the three faculties and also the fourth faculty, Raj Yoga, is involved even in worldly success. If he is not emotionally attached to the sport that he wants to excel or profession that he wants to excel in, he will not succeed. He has to be emotionally 100% attracted towards that goal. Whatever be the goal, it may be bhavamukhi, it's okay. But even for that, he needs to use that faculty which is known as emotion. He has to be emotionally terribly attached or terribly possessed by the goal. He wants to become, desperately wants to be the best singer or the best sportsman or the best professional in his field. How much of emotion is involved? His day and night, his emotion has to be directed. So that is Bhakti Yoga. Then the second thing is he has to use all his intellectual capacity, all his wisdom to see how he can use his resources to excel in the skills that he needs to excel. Just emotion will not help. Just bhakti towards God will not help, because, or bhakti towards the goal that you have chosen for yourself will not help. I say I am very keen to become a great footballer, but if I don't use my brain and try to find out what will make me a great footballer, so I have to use my thinking capacity, the rational capacity, the analytical capacity. Then we come to discipline. Oh, if I may be emotionally very much keen to become a footballer or a mathematician, but I have to love that subject, but at the same time I have to rationally assert myself, use all my thinking capacity to make it a reality. That is the second part. So thinking and feeling are the two faculties we have to use. And then we'll see how it helps us in our sadhana. Just as it helps us to excel in the bhavamukhi world, the outer world, it helps us in the inner world. The faculties are same. The mind is the same. One is extrovert, another is introvert. That is the only difference between a normal life, a normal successful worldly life, and a normal or a successful spiritual life. The energies, the faculties of the mind are the same, only the direction is different. One is outward, bhavamukhi, another is chetomukhi. So now we come to the third faculty. One is thinking, another is feeling. But both thinking and feeling, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you are emotionally attached to the goal or the success that you want to attain, you have to go to the field. You have to go to that actual field and assert your will How much a player who wants to become a great footballer, he has to go and discipline himself, and 100 times he will be tired, he has to exert his will again and again and again and work day and night if he wants to be the best. So if so much success is required, that same will is required to do spiritual sadhana also. That is known as karma yoga. Karma yoga deals with that faculty of the mind which is known as willpower. So thinking, feeling and willing. Willing means willpower. The power to assert and power to do it persistently. Discipline oneself in such a way that we go on doing till we achieve success, whether it is external world or internal world. So the willpower enables us to do karma yoga, the yoga of will, the yoga of asserting the willpower of the mind is karma yoga. The yoga of asserting the thinking capacity, our rational capacity to properly, that is jnana yoga. Then we come to that faculty which helps. Suppose a person is very emotional, he doesn't have that kind of rational capacity, he doesn't have that kind of analytical capacity, he doesn't like jnana yoga. He can, even with the faith, the wonderful faith, most of the great prophets and the disciples of the great prophets were illiterate people. They were not theological, they were not great theologians. They just had faith, and that faith helped them to move mountains, as they say. The disciples of Jesus were fishermen. They were not intellectuals, they were not theologians, they were not pastors or who were associated with theological learning. They were simple people who had 100% faith. You may call it blind faith, but Thakur Sri Ramakrishna always said there is no such thing as blind faith. Faith is always blind because it is either faith or reason. There cannot be both. If you are always keen to reason and if you keep on doubting everything, like the doubting Thomases, the word is used because Thomas doubted. Even if he sees some vision, he will keep doubting. But people of faith, whether they have a vision, whether they reach that spiritual reality, that inward journey, their journey starts with faith, their journey ends with faith. So that faith, that tremendous faith about the truth of the internal journey, because the scripture says so, because their Lord says so, or because their Ishta says so, is known as Bhakti Yoga. So that Bhakti Yoga, apparently it is very easy but still it requires Karma Yoga because it requires willpower to persistently go after an ideal with faith. Many times you will find the doors are closed. These sadhakas, if you see, most of the upasakas, including Sri Ramakrishna, he showed. For years and years he cried, he said, "Oh mother, you are not giving me the vision, your vision. You have shown yourself to so many great saints, Ram Prasad and others. But why are you denying me that vision?" It was just pure faith. He said, "Are you cheating me?" Because he even prayed to Ma Kali, the Dakshineshwar deity, whom he said, you gave such wonderful visions to all these great saints, and if you really exist, then why don't you show yourself to me? That is faith, that is bhakti, that emotional attachment, that I will by persistent bhakti see the Lord. And he went to the extent, because he felt that because I am an unlettered person, he said, because I am an ignorant person, are you denying me your vision? And when he took the extreme step of killing himself, he gets the realization or vision. So bhakti is equally competent to give you that, take you to that higher subjective reality, which is the consciousness. When he saw mother, what did he see? He drowned, his eye drowned. If you read the great master, the wonderful book, which is so essential to understand Sri Ramakrishna, even to understand the gospel, even to understand the reality behind our Ishta. Sri Ramakrishna, if you consider, most of you have been initiated. So even to understand a little bit of what is the nature of Ramakrishna, gospel is not enough. Gospel gives a lot of teachings. But in the Leela Prasang or the great master or the divine play of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Sarvasthananda is analyzed who is the Ramakrishna to whom we are worshipping. He even quotes Kasmai Devaya Havisha Vidhema. There is a famous verse in the Rig Veda. The rishis, they went on praying because that is the tradition. They went on praying. Then suddenly the rishis in unison they said, who is the God to whom we are praying? There is absolutely no response. So a stage comes in every sadhaka, every upasaka, that is my prayer being answered? So that persistence, that willpower, which is known as karma yoga, that will helps, that no matter, even if the God does not reveal to me, that pure consciousness, that subjective reality, what the scriptures speak of, the theoretical concept to become a reality in my life, that is important. Maybe hundreds of people may be asserting that and they may be giving good talks in the Upanishads. But what does that Upanishad mean to me? What do the teachings mean to me? It meant a lot to Latu Maharaj, the shepherd boy. There's a beautiful book, How a Shepherd Boy Became a Saint. It's one of the best biographies of Latu Maharaj. It has been written by, from Bengali, it has been translated by Swami Chetananandji. It's a nice book, How a Shepherd Boy Became a Saint. He was the only one amongst the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna who had no access to learning. He could not even write alphabets or read anything. Sri Ramakrishna could read and write, but Latu Maharaj was incapable. Sri Ramakrishna tried his best. He himself was illiterate, but he at least tried, said, learn to write your name at least. So he could not teach him ka or ka or all these alphabets. So that person, without any intellectual background at all, even when Swami Vivekananda forced him, he said all have to attend the Bhagavad class, the Upanishadic class, which was conducted by Shuddhanandji. So he felt very inferior, in fact. It was so simple. He said, what shall I do? I don't understand what these people are speaking. Though it was, Shuddhanandji was trying to make it very simple to understand the very complex principles of the Upanishads. He was trying to make it simple so that the common layman can understand, the brahmacharis can understand. Latu Maharaj normally sat in a corner of the room. He says, it is too much for me, this philosophy. He had his own sadhana, he had faith, he repeated the holy name given by Sri Ramakrishna, so he didn't need all these things. But because Swamiji had said, he used to sit. And when the Kathopanishad was being discussed, and the nature of that first realization, the first glimmer of consciousness you get when you do sadhana, when that was being described and translated into Bengali, which he knew, suddenly he jumped for joy. He said, yes, what Shuddhananda is saying, what this Sudhir, was a great Pandit, he did not understand it in a logical way, nor did he understand the philosophy behind it. But when he said that this is what you will experience, the Rishis experience in the Kathopanishad, the first experience will be the awakening of the Buddhi, which you will see as a beautiful light of consciousness shining brightly within. Now this was just an experience of a Rishi thousands of years ago, a part of the Kathopanishad, which the Pandit means Shuddhanandji was trying to explain to the audience there. Among all the people, it was only Latu Maharaj who was himself unable to understand anything of that Upanishad till then. He suddenly jumps and shouts, he says, exactly this is what I saw in my meditation. This is what I saw. So he has seen the reality by his faith, by his practice, by the sadhana that he did, what others were trying to understand through their inferior intellects, or intellects which is always considered to be an inferior faculty. It can just give you the guideline. It's like just seeing a map and you know the way, you know the route, you know everything, but it doesn't really matter Because even if you know the map, it is only when you reach that destination you understand. And he had reached the destination even without the maps. And the maps were explained to him, and then it coincided with his vision. So through faith, he reached the same point which another person would do after hours and years of Upanishadic study. That is also a good path, that is also the path of jnana. But then somewhere down the line, these Upanishadic truths should be meaningful and real to us. When that becomes real, it becomes upasana or sadhana. So the need of sadhana is to experience for ourselves, just as the importance of technology in the field of science. Pure sciences, no matter how much you study, how many PhDs you get, unless somebody uses those principles of pure theory, pure mathematics, the Newton's law and all the laws, and converts it into machines which can demonstrate before the world that those principles which Newton enunciated, the principles which all the scientists, the theoretical physicists, the theoretical people in the chemical world, all those things, all the subjects which we learnt as theory, when we see the practical demonstration as technology, then persons are convinced. Oh, this is the importance. See, these theoretical principles have been applied. The principles of gravity, all the principles of electromagnetism, when they are applied to these objects, when they are applied and the machines are designed, then it gives some meaning in our life. Oh, this is the practical application. So till then they remain theories, they remain frozen ideas in our brain which are never going to be used. That is the greatest danger. That is why if you see, Vivekananda says, Sri Ramakrishna came as an illiterate person just to show that experience is more important than the theoretical concept behind it. Otherwise, there is a danger that you get stuck at the intellectual level. Intellect is, he says, is just a street cleaner. It can clean the streets, but you need experience to verify what you have theoretically understood. If Latu Maharaj had not shouted that day, all the monks, young monks they were so inspired, and for 3 continuous days, he again and again went and remarked to Shuddhanandaji, what you said was absolutely correct. And he was so excited because it tallied with his experience. He didn't have to pass through the intellectual rigors of understanding the Upanishad, but he had access to the direct experience. So sadhana is supposed to do that, and upasana, whatever system or tradition we follow, they follow this principle that all the 4 yogas, they are part of our sadhana or upasana. Any sect which gives, where a guru gives some kind of upasana to the disciple, it has elements of jnana, elements of bhakti, elements of karma. Of course, repetition itself is karma. Every time you repeat the name, that repetition leads to uncovering of some bondage or the destruction of some bondage. In fact, every repetition of the mantra, like every good karma that we do, has the capacity to negate the evil effects of our accumulated karma. If you see the 3 philosophies, the 3 major religions of the world, Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism, they believe a lot on the theory of karma. The reason being is, Buddha went to the extent that everything is the karma only. So it is only through good actions, good deeds, good thoughts, you can undo, and when that nirvana comes by itself. So for him, even God is not necessary, even bhakti to a personal God is not necessary, but devotion to your practice is necessary. So he said, if you can get all these things through your own effort, because what is preventing the nirvana or the highest realization is your own karma. You have to undo it. And he gave a very simple religion which convinced people who do not want to believe in a God. He said, by removal of your karma, all accumulated karma, because that is a very scientific theory, cause every effect that you feel now, every effect that we either enjoy or suffer, can be traced to some past action of ours. So there is no denying the fact that every cause has an effect. It's a very scientific law. As you do, so you become. So there is nobody who can say that it is not a scientific truth. In the field of spirituality, the law of karma is the most scientific principle, that we get only what we deserve. If we are sad today, if we are miserable today, it is because we have done some evil action in the past. So sadhana, another way how sadhana helps the spiritual aspirant is not by directly revealing the knowledge, but by removing the obstacles that obstruct that knowledge. So every time you repeat the mantra, some unknown, and they say the philosophy of Shiva and Shakti, that is the Tantras. Tantras, in fact, what Tantra means is it is the technology of the science of Vedanta. Vedanta as a science needs a technology to make it useful in our lives, and that the Tantras claim. They take the principles of Vedanta and Brahman and Maya they convert into a theory of Shiva and Shakti. The principle of Brahman is equated with the principle pure consciousness of Shiva and the Shakti which leads to the created world. So to come out of the mess, they say this Shakti, when it becomes gross and more gross, it creates problems, it creates complexities. So they say, why don't you take the help of that same Shakti to go back to the source from which it came? So this principle of Shiva and Shakti, or Purusha and Prakriti in Sankhya, or Vedanta and the Brahman and Maya of Vedanta, they are the same. There is absolutely no difference between these concepts. Only thing is the technical aspects. Each follows a different technique. And in Tantras, when it is combined with Vedanta and Yoga, this idea of mantra shastra comes. So the mantra is one of the most, it's nothing but a condensed prayer. Other traditions like Christianity, Islam and the other Semitic religions, they, instead of mantras, they use the prayer. So prayer has the same effect. Why do they pray? Prayer is repeatedly supplicating the Lord to remove some problem, some ignorance. Whereas mantra, you use a cryptic symbol, a bija. It is known as bija mantra in tantras. These sounds are not arbitrary sounds. They are sounds which are of proven efficacy. And when it comes charged with the tradition behind it, they say it hastens the process of destroying of karma. So our karma we can wait and continue doing good deeds for life after life till all the past karma is exhausted and we reach nirvana. That is what Buddhists say. They say just be patient, go on doing good works. That is what he said. 500 lives. They just even have these stories, where Buddha sacrificed his life. He went on doing so much of good in every one of his lives that in the last life he got nirvana. That is one way. But the tantras or the science of mantra, they say the process can be hastened if you add to your other sadhana that you do in your daily life. You add the power of these cryptic sound symbols which are known as bijas. Bija means seed. So, because our sanskaras are in seed form and we are not even aware of it, what is the baggage of karma that we have brought to this life? We are very happy, but suddenly misery strikes us and then we attribute it to prarabdha. We'll say, oh, it is my prarabdha. But what is this prarabdha? It had its origin somewhere in the past. So just by saying it is my prarabdha, you can't solve the problem. So tantras say, why just depend on, why be fatalistic in your life and say that it is all destiny, it is all prarabdha. So you can undo that prarabdha if the technique is shown to you, wherein you can not only destroy the prarabdha, but even before the karma becomes uh, karma starts fructifying and becomes prarabdha, you can destroy it at the source. That is what the bija mantra or the tantras say, that the rishis or the sadhakas, they are not arbitrary mantras. People like Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi, and all the direct disciples, they literally, Turyananji says, when he was meditating, when he was in deep meditation, he has sometimes seen the shining mantras. Even the Gayatri mantra, he says, used to just blaze it in light form. Of course, sometimes he would hear these mantras. So these are revelations. These are not just arbitrary sound that somebody sat and composed the Gayatri mantra. It's not like composing any poetry. This Gayatri mantra and all these are revelations in the form of sound or in visual form to the rishis who just recorded them. And later on they gave meaning, or they explained the meaning behind this Gayatri. If you see the meaning of Gayatri, the meaning of any other mantra, they are practically the same. But they are not arbitrary sounds. You can't just create a mantra and give someone. It has to come down, a tradition has to be behind it. And in that tradition, the people who have successively given that mantra to the succeeding generation, they would have had some experience of that mantra, or the efficacy of that mantra was proven in their life. That is why when somebody told Brahmananda, a disciple said, I have been doing, you have given me Diksha, I have taken initiation, I have been doing for a few months, absolutely there is no impact, I cannot see any difference, I am the same person. So then Brahmananji gets angry on him. He said, if you do it sincerely for 2 years, and if you do it sincerely, the way I have told you to do for 2 years, and if you don't get results, you are free to come and slap me. So he had so much of conviction. And another explanation Holy Mother gave, why people don't see the impact of sadhana. She gives a very, very subtle and wonderful explanation. One of her women disciples asked that, I have been doing this japa. Maybe she was doing it with lukewarm devotion. She was not doing it sincerely. But in any case, Holy Mother promised her, said, just persist and you will see the results. Then again and again she was asking, then why do I not see anything? Then she gives an answer which is even superior to what Brahmananji said. She says, suppose, my dear child, if you are sleeping in a room, you are sleeping on a cot, and you are resting there, and you are not conscious at all. Some 4 people, 5 people come and lift that cot and take you to another place, another room. You are not aware. So what will happen when you get up? You will find yourself in a new place. So that transformation was not known to you. Similarly, she said, just have faith and keep repeating what I gave you, and whether you know it or not, it has transformed you. It has destroyed a lot of old samskaras which would have overwhelmed you with suffering. As she said, if a sword wound was due, you don't realize the sadhana that you have done has just enabled you to get away with your karma with just a pinprick. You might have felt a pinprick, but that is the least that the sadhana has allowed you to suffer. Otherwise, you would have had a sword wound. So with these examples, she is trying to explain Holy Mother's life biography. If you read, she gave so much of importance. In fact, she said that is the only thing you need to do. Just go on repeating whether you have faith or not. It's the tradition, it's the power behind the tradition, it's the power behind the mantra, the intrinsic spirituality that is contained in a condensed form. So in our tradition, it was mandatory to give Gayatri mantra at the age of 6, even if the child wanted to do it or not. Unfortunately, now it has just become a ritual. The Gayatri mantra was mandatory because they found that along with giving the skill sets to the children to enable to earn a living, there is something else which is required and which has to be given at a quite an early age. Between 6 and 8 is the normal Upanayana that is being done. And initially the Vedic tradition says it was given to both boys and girls. There's no reason why girls should not be given that. Where is there a question of gender in this? They have an equal, each one has a right to realize the divine spirit within. If boys need it, the girls also, but how it came to be monopolized by the male section of the society, we do not know. But whatever it is, the instructions that were given to develop the Bhavamukhi attitude and to do well in the world was supplemented or was complemented by another technique which was given at a very small age, tender age. And they were supposed to develop both this Antarmukhi attitude so that they become wiser, they awaken their buddhi, which will make them take or make the right choices in life so that they don't suffer. Because that is one of the functions of sadhana, is to clear your understanding. In fact, the Gayatri Mantra means that. O son, the Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai, that bright illumined sun, or the knowledge that is contained in the sun, or sun is just a symbolic representation of the knowledge. Let that knowledge remove all the ignorances that are in my heart. So with the awakening of the buddhi, the person becomes not only wise, but he makes the right choices in life. That is, his viveka develops, the power to take the right decisions. So every moment of our life we have to make some decisions. So unless we train the children right from a young age, then you can't expect that they will change their ways and take well-informed decisions about their own life and about others' lives. So that is part of the upasana. So upasana was supposed to be something which is mandatory along with the other skills that were also given for the child to succeed in life, boy or girl. So it was mandatory because the rishis and the system of life that was developed believed that there should be a balance. The outward bhavamukhi attitude should be complemented by the antarmukhi attitude. And if both are learned together, or the guru gives both the knowledge of both the pursuits together, then there will be a balanced life. Then he can choose how much of antarmukhi or how much of chetomukhi life he should choose for himself, or how much of but he has to make the choice. And to make that choice, he needs his buddhi to be awakened. Once the buddhi is awakened, which is the first step of any mantra, the mantra first awakens the buddhi, then you become your own guide. You don't need the guru. Your buddhi becomes your guide. They say the guru gives you the mantra, and after a certain stage, the mantra is awakened, and with the awakening of the mantra, you get that kind of wisdom where you can depend on your own wisdom, on your own choice-making capacity, and not go to the guru for everything. Okay. Yeah. So we'll conclude. We just have 10 minutes.
Well, we have this whole book until 5 o'clock, so